For joining us for today's Design Review Board meeting of December 6th. If we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was fast.
We did, cruise through it.
We did.
All right, so first we have attendance,
So noted.
and next we have public comment. Is there anyone who's not one of the applicants that would like to speak? Both applicants? Okay, we'll close public comment. Next we have the minutes of the November 15th meeting. We've all had a chance to look them over. Unless there's changes, I'd look for a motion.
So moved. Support.
Moved by Clerk Brooks, support by Treasurer Shostak. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All
Aye.
opposed? That passes. So we have new items, site improvement of 42505 Woodward Avenue Office Building. We'll start with Andrea. She'll present, and then who's the applicant on this? And then you can come up next, introduce yourself, and give us more.
Okay, good afternoon. What we have first on the agenda is some upgrades to an existing office building that is located at 42505 Woodward Avenue. You can see it highlighted here up on your screen, located on the west side of Woodward Avenue. The applicant has been working, the property owner has been working on doing site improvements, which include repaving of their parking lot. So they have repaved it and added, they will be adding parking lot striping to comply with the dimensional requirements within our zoning ordinance. They are also adding they added a dumpster, which is located towards the bottom left-hand side of your screen, which would be the northwest corner of the site. They did not previously have a dumpster, so this is an improvement in addition to their site. They also, in the center of the parking field highlighted on your screen, they did add in 2 new light poles, as well as 2 new EV charging stations.
Where are the EV charging
The
stations?
EV charging stations, let me get my
So I just want to
pointer
make
here.
sure that's far away
Sure.
from anything else that can burn.
They're located in this center parking area,
Okay.
next to the light poles that were installed.
Okay.
So they're located, I believe there's one here
So they're
and
far
one in
enough
this
away from
area.
the building.
Away from the home, yes. And they're located close to the lighting poles to allow for good illumination of usage. That's why they're located there. In addition, they are proposing to add some landscaping within the Woodward Avenue right-of-way. They are adding 6 trees along the frontage, as well as some additional shrubs and plantings. Any work or plantings within the right-of-way will require a right-of-way permit from MDOT, since this is Woodward Avenue. In addition, they are doing, they did provide some turn radii to provide to our fire department to ensure that there would be enough room for their largest size fire truck to be able to access the site and exit the site. So you can see that the applicant has met the fire department's requirements with some proposed modifications to that southerly curb cut, which is currently existing. The site does in fact have 2 existing curb cuts, which if I step forward here and look at at some of the site photos, you can see. So this is the building itself, the exterior of the building, and those revisions and modifications, as well as the sign that's on the building, were previously approved by the Design Review Board back in 2020. There you can see the light post, and as well as that EV station just below it. So this is kind of looking from the south, looking north. From the north, looking south towards the building. Woodward would be on our left-hand side. Here you can see the 2 EV charging stations, again, next to those 2 light poles. There is an existing masonry wall that does run along the rear of this parking field. This is the dumpster enclosure that has been proposed. It will have doors on the front of it as required by our ordinance, and it does have a masonry type covering that will enclose around the parameter of the dumpster. They do not have the ability to add any evergreen screening around this, as this is placed directly onto the concrete pad. But again, they did not previously had a dumpster at this site, so this would be an improvement by adding the dumpster, since they did not have previously had one. This is the view from the south of the building looking north to that curb cut. And then to your right of your screen where you see that large tree, within that area, kind of in front of that red vehicle, is where they'll be adding the vegetation as shown within the landscape plan. The changes which include adding some impervious surface, which was in the rear of the building back here, which was previously grass. We did have that increase in impervious surface reviewed by our environmental and engineering and environmental services department. It shows that any changes to stormwater are negligible. There's no negative impact to the change of that impervious surface. So the EESD has signed off on these revisions, noting that any work within the right-of-way would be required by MDOT, as well as it has been approved by Michael J. Duell, our landscape architect, did have an opportunity to review the landscape plan, does support that, as well as I stated earlier, our fire department in terms of any of those changes or access to the site. With that, Mr. Joe, I'll refer to, I'm not exactly 100% the best way to pronounce your last name.
Good enough.
What's the last name?
Dedvukai.
Even though I'm Polish,
Good
I'm
afternoon.
ashamed of myself, I should know better. How do you say it?
Dedvukai.
Dodovukai. So Mr. Dodovukai is the property owner, so with that, I can answer any questions as well as him.
Yes, good afternoon. So everything Andrea said is accurate. Although the update that I have for you is that MDOT has approved the vegetation, and they required a $20,000 bond, which we've applied for. We're going to comply with that, and everything basically that we've done here has gone through, as I understand it, the township planner, the engineering, and environmental services, and they all agree with it.
You mean after the fact?
Yes.
So do we have
We're so
promises
good that we
there's
don't,
no
we always comply
more-
anyway.
Well, except we would have probably done something about the dumpster being able to be blocked, because we would have found some way for you to put it somewhere or do something, so there could have been some screening.
Yeah, that's the existing location of dumpster, and they just follow the pattern and maximize the parking spaces as it was before. Nothing's changed in terms of the dynamics of the parking lot.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question regarding the chargers. Are those going to be intended for public use?
No, there's just private use. Everybody's going green, so we just went a step ahead, make it available for all the workers that would work in the building.
Okay.
I do appreciate that you put it away from the building, because
Yeah.
we do have some issues lately with some fires, so
Oh,
it's nice
absolutely.
for your safety that it's not near the building.
Yeah, it's not.
Okay.
And they're very reliable. They're one of the best on the market.
Well, I asked because ChargePoint is a network that allows people to come and pay to charge.
It does, but this will be private network only for building use.
Okay.
Yeah, so for your benefit, we're asking because you have two EV guys that are seeing a new charging station. So
Oh, is that
that's
right?
why they're asking. You have a Tesla and a Volt, right?
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's convenient. I mean, you go to work and you can charge your car, and then
Right.
you don't have to charge it at night.
You might see them on your location.
But Woodward, actually, the state is going to be providing wireless charging. It'll be the first wireless charging road in
Oh,
the
they
entire
did just
country
install
on Woodward
it.
Avenue.
They
You
did
mean while you're
just,
driving, it charges your car?
they
Yeah.
just installed it. Yeah, you get, they just opened it.
Yeah.
But you have to buy the reader to put
Right.
on your car, so it's kind of like
As
a
it
toll.
passes.
Like I have an Easy Pass when I'm out east. It's the same thing. It just charges you based on how many miles you went on the road.
Interesting.
All designed at the U of M, too. All up there.
Yeah,
Pretty cool.
pretty cool.
Any other questions?
Which parts of this are now before us to be considered for approval? Just the
Essentially,
dumpster?
yeah. Basically, all the site changes. So what we have is a new concrete parking lot, and then they will have to stripe it before this is any permits are finalized, because there's currently not the striping. We have a plan identifying what the striping will be. New light fixtures, the
do we
EV
have any
charging
of that?
stations, and then adding the landscaping and the new dumpster. So essentially, as a whole, just all the changes that were done to the site.
Was there a
Can you
lighting?
go
Oh, here's
over
the lighting survey.
landscaping and, because I apologize, I didn't get student or the thing, so I didn't see the landscaping. Can you
Oh,
just
sure.
go over the landscape?
Yeah, sure.
I think because you usually go over the whole thing, she has stopped printing them because you were going over them anyway. And like, that's why I was like, I thought it was more than just the dumpster that we were looking at.
So here is the proposed landscape plan. Let's
Do
see.
we have any
So-
of those? Normally you give us pictures of what it's gonna look like and,
Well, the only graphics I have of the demonstration of the landscape plan is the one that I have in front of you. We don't have any sort of 3D imaging or anything. This is for, they're not proposing to remove any trees. There is an 18-inch maple that is shown on the plan, which is to remain, which is that tree that I saw earlier in that graphic. They are proposing to include 6 new trees along Woodward Avenue, and only lawn along Roswell Lane, which would be to the left of the screen, which would be to the north of the site, facing the other office building to the north. They're also adding shrubs and perennials that have been added to the greenbelt area along Woodward Avenue, in addition to the proposed trees and lawn area. So that is what's being proposed.
Can't read it.
What kind of trees are they? What kind of, like, it's hard, since this one isn't one that we normally look at.
The list of trees, if you just scroll down slightly, there's the landscape plan.
Sure. So the large deciduous trees that are being included are a columnar Swedish aspen. There are a quantity of 3 of those, as well as a slender silhouette sweet gum. Those are the deciduous trees that are being proposed. They are proposing 20 spreading junipers. Deciduous shrubs, they're proposing 5 double play gold spirea. And then for perennials, they're including geranium, stonecrop, Shasta daisies. Those are the materials that are being submitted within that area.
So there is some that'll have winter and some for spring and
Yes.
summer.
That's right.
Nice. Sorry, these are for like people like them. Usually we get pictures, like renderings of what it looks like, so we can see about adding more or taking out, and it's harder for our eyes. We're not used to reading them the same way you guys do.
Can you address any questions about landscaping along Roswell again, and the back, sort of the back of the property, which butts up against the houses there? There's a brick wall there, is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah, see the squiggly line, if you will?
Uh-huh.
On the bottom of the screen is the existing wall.
It's a brick.
Yes, and there's really no, I did the site visit, there's no earthen area back there that they'd be able to add any vegetation.
There is vegetation on the other side of the fence, though, like trees and things of that nature.
On
They're on the
the-
lawn.
On the lawn of the homeowners on the other side.
That's right. Yes, correct.
And the dumpster is going to go sort of near the homeowner at 2803 Colonial?
The northwestern part of the property,
Yeah, so it's essentially paved straight up to the.
which is where it was
rear
before.
wall.
So you
That-
didn't
There
take
was a-
out greenery.
No.
That parking lot was there before you
That's
started.
right, yes.
Which
Yeah,
is part of the reason, Danny, why we are looking at this, is accepting some existing nonconformities, which
Yeah,
is not
except-
uncommon when we've got an existing site. So we do identify that there's no way for them to screen the dumpster because of an existing condition, as well as adding, typically they'd be required to add parking lot trees.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But
So-
because the parking lot tree is existing, we can accept some of those existing nonconformities, they're kind of grandfathered in.
So this wasn't existing because he did it already and now he's coming. It was existing before he bought the building.
Yes.
Correct.
So the person before went
Correct. I
too
mean, it was
far.
an existing condition with that site that he
Yeah,
inherited.
I think it was
correct?
1972 existing
Okay.
condition.
Okay, that's why I just want to make sure it was
Sure.
not self-created,
No,
which
no.
is good.
No, it's
Yeah.
existing,
Okay.
1972 vintage.
So there used to be just a dumpster sitting there in
Exactly,
the side
no
yard
screening,
of
nothing.
2803, but now this is better for
Screening.
the neighbor.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And like the
Thank you.
temporary dumpsters, just while you're doing all this, then it goes away.
Yes.
It's just throwing us off because usually there's so much greenery. I've never seen such a stark, like, because I've never really noticed that site before, probably
Yeah.
because it's mostly cement and stuff, so.
Very nice parking lot.
Yeah, that's what's throwing us off. Usually there's parking lot trees we gotta look at, usually there's this, and I'm like, wait, what's missing? Okay.
So
Ready to move on?
I'm ready to make a motion to approve. Does it need to go to ZBA after this, or?
No,
So
Nothing?
to
Okay.
approve as presented.
Just the permits.
For the changes, identified.
thank you.
We have a motion by Clerk Rowe,
I'll support.
support by Treasurer, I almost said Keeps, I'm sorry. Shostak, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? That does pass.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Congratulations.
You too.
Next, we have the site plan special land use for 6255 Telegraph Road, Primrose Daycare.
Okay, so what we have right here is actually somewhat exciting. It's a new site plan for a new a daycare facility in the township, and the name of the facility is Primrose. We do have the applicant here that can certainly answer any questions as it relates to that business and what they're all about, so he can certainly share that with you. But what I would like to do is just kind of run through the site plan that is being presented. This is a property that is located at the former location of the St. Andrew's Church. I think we're all familiar with this site. This aerial is a little bit dated. It's from 2020. It's before the church itself has been demolished. But this is the parcel that lies immediately west to the Samaritas Senior Housing Facility. So what we have before you, the property itself is approximately 2.17 acres. The property is zoned actually RM, multiple family residential. And the proposed use of the daycare is a special land use within the RM zoning district. So what I will do is I'm going to review the site plan and then highlight any significant points that will be related to the site plan.
Yeah, they leveled.
Okay.
Oh,
So as best as we can see, here is the site plan itself. This is the proposed, you can see the building, the proposed building, which is, again, for the Primrose Daycare. It's an approximately, the St. Andrew's Church was about 8,000 square feet. The proposed building is 13,525 square feet. As I had stated earlier, it is a special land use within this zoning classification. So in terms of some of the peculiarities or variances that may be part of this application, as I stated, because this is located in the RM, multiple family residential district, we have a provision within that multiple family district that says that no building can exceed 125 feet in length. That is intended to meet more of the standards of like a multiple family housing type of environment. However, in this instance, the application being one single building, one larger building, the length of the building is 132 feet. So it does expand beyond that 125. Our zoning ordinance does allow for our planning commission to accept that longer length of the building. So that is one thing that, that they'll have to seek before the planning commission is the acceptance of that. One key thing to note,
Planning? Okay.
so one thing to note is there was an existing curb cut off Telegraph Road that MDOT did require the applicant to remove. So that northerly curb cut on the site will be removed as part of the site plan. And then there will be one ingress and egress point in and out of the site located along the existing curb cut here to the south. The applicant is not proposing any changes, and there's no requirement to add any decel lane along Telegraph Road because according to MDOT, because it's 4 lanes there, there's no need for that right-hand decel lane. They consider that right-hand lane to be the decel lane. So there's not going to be any major road work within Telegraph, which is good. Only thing that would be required would be any permits from MDOT as it relates to, and I know that the applicant has already shared and has been working with MDOT to address those issues. To the north of the building, we do have, there is a residential, I believe it's called the Cranbrook Chase Condo Association, which I know the applicant has reached out to, the homeowners association that's immediately here to the north, and then immediately to the east here, they'd be abutting up to the Samaritas Senior Living. But the building itself, again, because it's a daycare, they are providing areas here to the north as well as to the rear of the building, which would be outside play areas for the children. Within our zoning ordinance, daycare facilities are required to have at least 1,000 square feet of play area. They certainly meet this requirement, and they have approximately 99,565 square feet of outdoor play area for the children. There's different levels going all the way from the younger up to the older age groups, and they're kind of separated and partitioned through fencing. They are proposing some fencing along the front facade of the building. That would require a variance from the zoning board, and then that's going to stretch across here as well to that northerly lot line. So any fencing, it's a 4-foot decorative fence that's going to run along the building frontage would require a variance from the zoning board of appeals. So that's one variance. Again, and then they're going to have a fence that, there is an existing 8-foot masonry wall that runs along that northerly property line, which will remain. And then additionally, they're asking for a 6-foot fence, chain link fence, to run along the rear of the property. So that will require a variance for the height. So those are 2 variances that relates to fencing. They do meet all the required setbacks in terms of front, side, yard setbacks. They do meet the parking requirement. Within our ordinance, they have to provide one parking space for 300 square foot of gross floor area. The proposed building being at, does require 45 parking spaces, and they are providing 46. That includes 2 barrier-free parking spaces, which will also be required. The location of the dumpster enclosure is just here to the south of the building, towards the east. That does comply. They are providing a dumpster enclosure as well as vegetative screening to screen it from public view. They are also placing a transformer on the site. It's this, if I can zoom in here. They did, actually were able to move the transformer. Originally, they were located in the front yard. That was gonna necessitate a variance. They have since worked with DTE, and they are able to now locate the transformer just on the inside of that masonry wall, and now it would be considered a side yard. So it wouldn't be the same front yard orientation as previously determined. The building, I'm trying to think if there's, let me go to the landscape plan. So just to like the southerly portion of the property, they are actively marketing to a purchaser. That property is being advertised, but at this time, we do not have a user for that southerly portion of the property. When that does occur, that applicant at that time, that user would have to be required to come back for their own site plan approval.
And they wouldn't like be asking for shared areas or anything? It would be only from where that end of that parking lot on goes? Like, it's not like they're gonna have shared spaces and make it larger?
Unless there was some reason that they were allowed to access some sort of shared parking based on the uses, but, I mean, this stands alone, the site
Okay.
plan, you're right, so,
So it'd be just that empty spot that they're marketing?
correct. The
Okay.
southerly portion, you're correct, so you're
They
right.
don't have to split the parcel?
At that
Yeah,
time,
they will have to.
that would be part of that application at that time.
And technically, actually, you can have multiple buildings on a commercial park, or even a multiple family parcel.
But we don't wanna approve something that would have needed variances if they did it with the split. Like, that's why I
Correct.
wanna make sure that everybody understands that if this causes what would have been variances, that's not something that would go forward, right?
Correct.
Like, for example, if they go up and now you need a variance because their lot lines are too far, or this or that,
Correct.
so
Correct.
just to make sure we all know that it's the empty spot that's up for sale, right?
Correct.
Is that, that's
Correct.
confirmed? Okay.
Correct. Yes, so you're right. So there's nothing on this site. Everything that's being provided for this site plan is specific to this site plan, and I'm identifying how it meets and stands on its own merits, meeting all the requirements within the ordinance. So anything coming forward would have to be looked at in the same parameters, how that site meets, on their own merit, meets all their provisions within the ordinance. So yes, it'd be a full site plan review for that southern portion,
Okay.
like a new site plan.
Right. I think Danny's point, which is
I don't want it
what
to
I have,
affect
is someone would
this.
say later, well, I bought this and it's non-conforming for all the uses I want. And
Keep in
we're
mind-
I'm more
now,
worried
we're now
about-
talking about setting up a situation where there's gonna be a future non-conforming problem
They
that
will
we're
have
gonna
to
have
come
to.
back to you, and it would have to be a revised site plan to demonstrate how they can comply with the Primrose site being compliant, and then present how they intend to develop the southerly portion in a separate site plan. So you'll have review opportunity at such time, both to review how Primrose is impacted, and then whatever proposed use is being presented on the south side.
Okay.
So that it's not, there's nothing automatic in this, with that
Right.
development. I'll be coming back to you.
Yeah.
It'll
Is
be the
that-
burden of that future applicant
Yeah.
and owner to
I would
to
probably be
devise a site plan that
disinclined, yeah, if they
complies
come
with
in and
what
say,
they
well,
have.
it's actually too small, it doesn't really fit all my needs, and I'd kind of be disinclined to feel sorry for them, given
Right.
that we're here now with a
Right,
plan.
that's what
that
I mean. I want to
could
make sure it's
anticipate that.
out there,
Yep.
that I would only even consider anything that goes, it wouldn't be able to go on to where those parking spots are
Understood.
to get, to
Understood.
avoid variances for either side.
Understood.
Okay.
Understood. So, in terms of the building well, they have provided a
Quick question.
photometric study.
Quick
I'm
question.
sorry, go ahead.
Again, because I don't want to approve something knowing that later we're creating, like Martin said, a non-conforming. So how far, actually, when I say line, for all that parking, how far would the line for setbacks and everything be for this to be approved as is? So meaning, where would they be able to split that lot where you're not needing a variance to have the parking go all the way to there?
Let's see, the southern part, if we're looking at a side yard parking lot setback, which would be the setback, because they
Right.
already meet the building setback. Let's see, the required parking lot setback is to the side would be 20 feet. So I would say they have to be 20
They'd have to be 20
feet
feet south of that
south of that,
to actually split it, okay.
correct.
I just want to have it in my head and on record that
Sure.
it would be 20 feet south of that.
Understood.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. So they have provided a photometric study indicating that it will be zero spillover at the lot lines, which does comply with the provisions of our zoning ordinance. This is the existing conditions. Here's the landscape plan. One of the challenges that they have, and one of the variances that they'll be seeking will be for, we do have required, actually, no, they addressed that. My apologies, I take that back. They are meeting the green belt requirements. We do have a requirement to have at least 10-foot deep green belt along that frontage, and they have definitely satisfied that through the use of, they're adding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 trees, as well as some other vegetation within that. They're adding honey locusts, 4 honey locusts, and
Do you have like elevation pictures that
Yeah.
show, that'll help.
I have
It's
building
not necessarily
elevations.
the name of them so much as seeing it laid out.
we don't have that now, but we certainly can have the applicant.
They're not, it's not a rendering
No, we don't have a
the
rendering.
landscaping.
Do we not require those anymore? Because we used to always get rendering,
We get building renderings, but not landscape renderings,
but we've seen landscape rendering.
because they offered it.
Maybe we could start suggesting that.
So here is the elevation of the building. This would be the west elevation, which would be facing Telegraph Road. The building materials are made up of batten board siding. They are proposing a metal roof as well as metal awnings, as you can see. And then they are proposing to utilize a brick material. They are proposing a stone wainscoting along the base of the building. They will be asking for 2 of these Primrose signs. Those would require a variance anytime that, first of all, there's no wall signs permitted in the RM zoning district. So because of the zoning itself, they would be required to seek a variance for any wall signs. They are proposing one on this west elevation. This would be facing Telegraph Road. And then they're also proposing one along the south elevation, which would be visible from, if you're driving, heading north on Telegraph. This would be the view on the north from Telegraph.
So not a monument sign, but 2 wall signs.
Well, they are going to propose a monument sign, but they have to come
Signs.
back, correct. They'll have to come back with their ground sign package. So they do plan, so yes, they are
But if
proposing
they have a
3 signs.
monument sign, you wouldn't need that one on the wall. Because normally if there's 0, but we're going to 3, just trying to wrap my head around everything. All right.
So with that, I am certainly more than happy to any questions. We have had this has been reviewed by HRC. It's been reviewed by our Engineering and Environmental Services Department, our Fire Department, as I said also earlier by MDOT, and it does meet all the requirements to move forward to the Planning Commission. But with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I know Mr. Egan, Bradford Egan is here on behalf of the ownership. If you'd like to ask him any questions about the use, their proposal, I know that he's willing to do that as well.
We definitely need daycare, so come on up.
I have a question.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
I'm Brad Egan. I'm with 814 Development.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me. I can answer any questions you have in regards to the site plan or the tenant. I did have a presentation, but I understand that we're under a little bit of a time crunch, so
What's that?
if there's anything that I can help
I would
with.
rather you tell us
Yeah.
information.
Okay.
I don't know who told you we have a time crunch, but you have a lot of time.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, a little bit about 814. We are a local company.
Crunch.
We do have a time
No,
crunch?
no, no,
Say-
it's okay.
Okay.
Do we have a time crunch or not?
I have to leave very soon to pick up my son,
But do you have time for him to give us?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're a local company, but 814 develops nationwide, and we choose to partner with clients that have uses that are enriching to the communities that they go into. So we partner with daycare centers, urgent care centers, swim schools, veterinary hospitals, even coffee shops. But it goes to our tagline that is enriching communities through real estate is our actual
Bookstores.
tagline.
Bookstores, we could use bookstores again.
No bookstores yet,
Boy, we sure could use some. Maybe we can add that to the list.
but we will look into that. So getting to that is Primrose Schools. Primrose has been around for 40 years. They have over 450 locations nationwide. They are one of the highest quality daycare facilities or academies in the country. They pride themselves on combining the education of the child as well as the development of the child from a social aspect as they move through their term at the Primrose Academy. They service, well, they have students that are from 6 weeks old to pre-K, so just about 6 years old. And the way the site operates is that their busiest hours are between 6 and 9 in the morning, and then pickup is typically from 3 till 6:30 in the evening. Their hours are 6 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. But they do require that the parents come in, they park their car, they escort their child into the facility, as well as going into the facility at the end of the day to pick up their child and bring them back into the car. So they're always escorted in and out of the building. There's no drop-off or anything like that. As far as the site plan goes, they don't skimp on anything in regards to the building materials, the building design, or anything like that. They use top quality siding, they use Anderson windows, they use the stone for the wainscot on the bottom of the building or at the knee wall of the building. And then from a landscaping perspective, we did have some requirements to meet in regards to the green belt, in regards to replacement trees, and in regards to parking lot trees. There's essentially 3 buckets that we had to fill, and we filled those requirements within our landscape plan. We did request, or we will be requesting a monument sign, which is situated in the middle of that green belt. Yep, right there. And then the one wall sign on the front of the building is, I know what the tenant is going to kind of really push us to get. The side one, maybe not so much. We might be able to let that one by, but the Primrose has a very extensive, very explicit way they want their facilities not only to operate, but to look. And from their standpoint, it's a reputation that they have in the communities that they go into to be the best. And that's the way they look at it from their perspective. So that we're trying to get into, even the playground equipment itself is custom made by Little Tykes, which is a huge playground equipment manufacturer. However, they have their own custom equipment made by Little Tykes for their play areas. The play areas are separated based on age, and there's only one classroom per at a time that goes out and uses the play area. So they make sure that there's no mass confusion out in the play area or anything like that in the way they operate. They do have a warming kitchen. They don't prepare any foods there, but they have a warming kitchen the food is actually catered into the facility. And then they serve water, milk, and juice at mealtime or snack time. As far as the other elements of the site plan, we do have the decorative fence that goes across the front of the building. That's a 4-foot fence. Excuse me. The reason that the fence comes through the front of the building is that each classroom has a doorway that exits outside to get to the play areas. So in order for safety for the children, that's why there's a need for the fence in the front of the building. The reason for the 6-foot fence around the perimeter, outside perimeter of the play area, is the same reason, safety. We don't want to have someone have the ability to reach over the fence and grab a child. If it's a 4-foot fence, they can do that. If it's a 6-foot fence, they can't do that. We are proposing a decorative fence for the area that is facing Telegraph.
There's a pointer if you want, just have to press that
Oh.
button if you want to point.
Do you have, that's also going to be screened with landscape?
Yes.
Like, it's not just, so the Telegraph won't see the fence, they'll see greenery,
There's a
year-round
pretty
evergreens
extensive landscape plan.
in front of the fence?
All this area is all landscaped here.
Did
we've
we-
got-
Did we screen the fence?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was all. We make you screen fences, so I just want to make sure, without the visual, I have to
Right.
ask more questions, I apologize.
No, that's fine, that's fine. We're putting oaks, if you lower the plan just a little bit, all these oaks right here, these are white oaks going in here along this fence line. This is the transformer that's going to be screened with small shrubbery around that. And then there's another line of landscaping right here in the center that's going to screen a little bit more extensively. I did have a meeting with 3 of the board members of the Cranbrook Condo Association. I met with the president, the vice president, and the secretary. I met them at the Bloomfield Township Library on Monday night. I spoke with them for about an hour. We had a wonderful conversation. They asked a lot of questions. They were very favorable in their response to the plan and look forward to the development. So they have been spoken with. I also, let the door open if they ever want to speak with me about any part of the plan at all. I'm more than happy to do that with them. But there is a separation between the fence line that is on the playground and the wall. To be honest, their biggest concern was that we take due care in not knocking down their wall, because they said it's quite old and a little bit fragile. So I assured them that we would do that.
Is there a generator plan for somewhere?
A generator? No, there's not a generator on the site.
Fair warning.
Probably need
With
one.
our tree canopy here and storms, fair warning.
Might want to plan for one
We
now.
may want to plan for one.
Yeah, we have some of the oldest areas of the township, so the trees,
And where it's placed will be a major bone of contention for everybody.
yeah.
Good point.
We would probably have them place it in the back, like along, because especially Samaritas is leaving anyway.
Okay.
Oh, they're leaving?
Yeah, Samaritas is closing,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah. Yeah, maybe you could expand, and if this is a success, you can build a bunch more on the Samaritas property, because they're leaving.
I know there are prospective buyers for that property. And,
Really?
Yeah, we've spoken with them, and I don't know what's going on with the property right now, but
Yeah.
I know there's some interested parties in it.
Great.
You had questions, right?
Any other questions
Oh.
that you may have? One thing to point out is along the back wall, a back fence area here that abuts the Samaritas area, this is a 3-foot, excuse me, 3-foot rock wall, and then the fence would be on top of that. So there is an elevation change between our property and their property. So we fill that with this 3-foot retaining wall, if you want to call it that. And then our play area is at an elevation that's above that. So safety is definitely a concern for, these daycare facilities.
Is there any screening on the outside of that wall between you and Samaritas?
No, there's not landscaping set to go in there. That's the rock wall right there. But there is landscaping down in this area. But there is no additional landscaping going in on that back
The
elevation
outside
of
part,
the
so whoever
fence.
purchased that property is gonna see the rock wall and then the fence on top of that?
Did
Correct.
Michael make note of that? Did Michael Dool make, because we
We're gonna
usually
have to
always have.
We're gonna have to have
screening.
we'll have to have a discussion with the applicant regarding that, because there's gonna be some additional vegetation that will be required back there.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we always require you,
'Cause
if
you're
you're
abutting
putting in
the
something
residential.
hard, like a rock or a masonry or a fence, you can look at it, but the rest of the world shouldn't have to look at it. It's kind of, we never even used to allow fences here,
Just
so.
makes our ears go up.
Yeah,
Right.
fences are a trigger.
Generators, fences, and then the
Yeah.
other one,
Right.
signs. You mentioned 3 and the
And part-
Primrose has
yes.
has a look. Well, obviously, Bloomfield Township has a look too, and getting 3 signs is gonna be
I always
I mean,
like.
we're
Yeah,
not
I
approving
think-
it here, you've
I
got to get
think
a
it
lot
would
of other
be-
approvals. It's
I
gonna
think
be
it would
very
be 2,
difficult.
we would just notify the tenant what our
2 may be
situation
hard.
is, that we would go forward with asking for, requesting with the ZBA.
Yeah,
Especially if you
request
let them
anything.
know that requesting is, even 2 is more than we normally. I always
Right.
like to point out, if you want to know where the only IHOP is without a blue roof, it is in Bloomfield Township. So although a corporate might want something nationwide, we are really, we are all about trees, we're about beauty, we're not about, neighbors don't make good, or fences don't make good neighbors usually. So we try and soften that, and it's because we are one of the highest level in the state where we have a look as well.
Right.
So I can tell you, I'm absolutely against 3. I've never given 3 out of choice to anybody, especially knowing that area.
Even 2
the-
might be a lot.
2 is a
I'll have
lot.
to reserve
We've-
my judgment, we'll see it again on the Board of Trustees, but
Yeah, we've finally allowed for monument signs in the area to be a second, but I personally would be against 3, especially because the monument sign purpose is so that people coming that way, so why do you need 2 in the
Right.
same?
It's more of the if we can go back to the elevation, it's the look because it's at the peak of the gable on the southern portion
a lot of renderings will really help us with that.
right here is where that wall sign is, right there.
And that's signage and marketing, which we are not a place that enjoys signage and marketing. We are very much a 95% residential, and then this helps our community. We love that you're bringing a daycare center. Believe me, this is well needed, but we also need it to fit our mold too, which is lots of, if you go up and down Woodward here versus Woodward south of us, you will notice exactly when you leave Bloomfield Township.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's a reason. We have berms, we have even Telegraph. Look at Telegraph from here all the way down to 14. You know exactly when you leave.
Right.
And it's because we don't really have the noise of marketing. It's you stand alone as it's Primrose, and they've got
Right.
enough to see that, and you're part of us. So I love what you're bringing to us, but I do want you to make sure that they understand the
I
3
will.
isn't going to fly, because we also have to vote at the Board of Trustees.
Right. I will take
So,
that to the tenant,
yeah.
for sure.
But this is a wonderful use.
Not that it isn't a
We
nice
definitely
sign,
need it.
right, and a nice building
Yeah.
and all that, but
It's a high-quality daycare, so I mean, this is a needed use. Did you have other questions?
no, the fencing, the renderings, the idea of bringing some more renderings as far as landscaping and the fencing.
Well,
goes
these
would-
are the colored renderings.
Yeah, I was talking about
I mean, the fence, the
fencing
rock
and
wall,
the,
normally
Oh.
when people bring us sites, we usually have the actual, what you see from Telegraph. Once we're done, this is what you're gonna see. So when you come to that, so even if we approve something today, knowing you're gonna come before us again, by the time it gets to the Board of Trustees, we're gonna wanna see so that we can make changes as needed.
Yeah.
Say, okay, right, like we normally do.
Yep.
We're not visual, we're visual 3D lookers versus
Right.
people who know what to expect, they're 2D. But when you do, by the time you come to the Board of Trustees, if you could have that, this is what you're gonna see from these 2 angles, it'll make your life a lot easier, less questions. It helps you too.
All right.
yes, and addressing the generator thing up front is gonna be really,
Yeah,
I
you're
think, a
gonna
smart
need it.
move for you.
Okay.
You will need it, because I think there was at least 7 times that we were out of power for at least a couple
We
days.
don't want you to have to come back.
So, yeah.
Which Primrose's clients, parents will be pretty upset by.
Right, understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful area with the trees, but the trees on storm days don't enjoy those wires very
Right.
much. Do you have any questions?
I don't.
All right.
Do we need a motion?
Could I maybe make propose a motion that we forward the site plan for further action with the ZBA next?
Planning commission.
With
Planning Commission?
without the second sign?
I'm not actually saying one way or the other. I'm just
Well, we're
forwarding it for
voting on
further
that
action.
today, though, aren't we?
Well,
We're voting on the 2 signs, not the monument, but we're voting on the
What I'm
site plan
Certainly you
before
can
it's
make,
for 2
yeah,
signs.
certainly you can make
proposing is we-
recommendations based on what's before you.
what I'm proposing, I guess, is forwarding it for further action without a recommendation one way or the other. It's going there no matter what we say.
But we have to tell them what we say.
Well, we just did.
It would be on, I mean,
You have
we
to
would,
vote on something for them to review. We have to give them
Yeah.
an opinion, even if it's a 2-to-1 or a 1, but we have to tell them something.
Do you prefer the signage to be addressed separately?
No, I want on record that like, if you say you want it as is, I'll vote against it, and that's okay. But
I'm not
I'm
saying
not
as is,
okay
I'm-
at all, and I want them to know I'm not okay
I guess
with both of those
my
signs.
point
Which
is,
is what-
would you like to see how the ground sign and whatever whatever their proposal is, would you like to act on the signage, have them come back and act on signage in a second submission?
Yeah, so we could move forward on everything else?
yeah.
As well as the landscaping will be at a later date, or we're just automatically saying, screen the rock wall?
Screen the rock wall. I'm
Okay.
specifically talking about signage, because there's times where you'll forward on a site plan application, and then they'll come back with their signage plan. So if you want the signage plan to be more comprehensive, they can
Yeah.
submit it in a
Yeah.
totality, and you can act on it as one.
And that'll give the applicant an opportunity to go back and have that conversation with the tenant as you guys talked about.
Take out
So
the
we can-
signage plan.
Yeah, just make
Correct.
the motion and say excluding the signage.
Excluding signage.
And including screening.
We will, yes.
And,
wall.
and including as addressing,
Screening along the
of
westerly.
generator. I mean,
Easterly.
I don't want to
okay.
leave that out.
Okay, we'll make
That's what
sure.
I
You
mean,
be
like,
specific
we
about
will
those
give
things.
Generator and screening, got it.
Yeah.
And separate application for sign.
Is this present zoned as an area that would have 0 signs? Did I hear you say that?
Multiple family residential is permitted to have, they are permitted to have one ground side 32 square feet, no higher than 6 feet and at least 25 feet off the property lines.
Okay, so without a variance, they can do the monument sign.
Do the monument.
In those,
Presuming they
within
meet the
those
25
size,
foot
right,
setback.
within those size requirements and setback requirements. It's the one in the building, there was 0 allowed without a,
Correct, because it's typically for, we're using the provisions within the RM. You wouldn't typically necessarily have a building sign on an RM building, so that's why it's not permitted.
Right.
And I don't mind
got it.
giving one, because we've given one to everybody else in that area, like, if you look on the corner, IEP has one, and if
Yeah,
you look
just IEP is
across the
there.
other sign, you've got all those US
IEP.
mattress and all those.
they snuck that one by us. Are they in the same zoning area?
The wall
IEP?
sign?
They're 01.
It's-
The
you
wall
They're
sign
all-
was
okay.
never approved?
You have O1 and you have B2.
They have both sides.
No, it was approved.
It was approved.
It was
but
approved. It
yeah.
just ended up being a little bit different visually than it was originally.
I think
Martin, I
yeah.
don't want to speak for you.
No, I
Did
did.
somebody
Just,
vote that was okay? I'm usually the
did.
mean
We
one
voted-
that says take it down and make it what it should have been.
no, it complies with what we approved,
Okay.
but when seeing it and seeing it in action, it didn't. Yeah, it didn't. I didn't have that visual in my mind.
No, and I
Once it
don't
came
really
together.
enjoy it. That's why I'm even more likely to say no up front, so that we don't have that issue happen again.
But we won't include signage with this
Okay.
review then.
Yep.
That's the understanding. Signage is off the table. The applicant will have to come back with a new application specific to signage.
So let me try another motion. We
All right.
forward this site plan, subject to being addressed, the landscaping addressed, the generator addressed, and not including approval of signage.
Perfect. Motion by
Support.
Clerk Brooks, support by Treasurer Shostak. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That does pass. Okay, well, we're happy to have, even
Thanks,
if it
guys.
looks like we're frustrated with, I swear we're happy to have you here, because there's definitely a need for this.
You're gonna fill it instantly.
Our employees alone,
Oh, I know we will.
Yeah.
you might have knocks on the door from our
Wonderful little
employees.
kids.
They're definitely always looking for good quality.
There will.
Okay, so can we have a motion?
I
Oh,
move we-
sorry, do we have any recent approvals that we need to look over?
No, we don't. Thank you.
So our next meeting date is December 20th, and with that, I'd look for a meeting
I move
to
we
adjourn.
adjourn.
Motion by Clerk Brooks, support by Treasurer Shostak. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That passes.
Thanks a
All right,
lot.
well, thank